This episode is
This meeting is being recorded.
This episode is being recorded now, and it will be on our website. We have almost all of the 30 previous episodes for this webinar series on our website. It's a huge resource for everybody who wants to go back in and listen to these wonderful presentations and discussions we have. So for today's presentation, I'm happy to introduce Karen. And Karen, you'll be able to introduce your co-presenter.
This is Linda Rue. She's one of the participants in our project this year.
Okay, great. Okay, that's super. So, but Karen is the co-founder of Food from Home equals Food for Home in Guelph, Ontario. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the first time that we've had one of our presentations live on site, and we are going to be touring and walking around together to hear and to see more of this beautiful garden. So yeah, following your presentation, we'll have time probably for some questions and answers, some discussion. So we invite all the participants to put questions in the chat box, or we can unmute ourselves. Everybody can unmute and we can have a conversation that way. So thank you very much for your patience and for getting started. Over to you.
Thanks, everybody. I hope this works well. Sound is okay?
It is.
It's good. Yeah, I have a pretty good computer that has a good microphone and camera, so I wanted to use that. So I had a nice chat with Christine this morning, and what I understand is that there's a couple of different goals for this tour. Each site that has received the Soul Award, Greenspace Award, is unique, and so partly it's just to show other folks around the country and globally, I guess, if they want to be checking out the videos, what our site looks like, and some information also that's particular to our project. And I think a couple of things are unique about it, not just the biodiversity of crops that we've chosen, but how those are linked to cultural diversity, which is a major piece of the goal of this. And is there anything else that we talked about that was particular, Christine?
Well, no, I think you're touching on everything. The fact that it is a space not only for, the plant biodiversity, but also the people and the collaboration between the two, and what you're learning from this whole experience.
Good. So Linda agreed to meet with me so that we could have a conversation. So rather than walk around and have a pretend conversation with people on little black boxes. So we'll start by, and if the camera's not good, then just Christine, just give me a little nod. So first thing we need to do is we have to thank this woman who's hiding in the background, who's just been transplanting lima beans. Diane Hurst she's a real goer about town, and she's a participant, and she is also the one who nominated us for this award. So we really thank Diane. She's going to sneak away on her bike now. So that's good. Can you folks see the flags? Let's just back up a bit.
Yes.
All right. So the first thing to tell you is that this is probably the only place in the whole world where this particular constellation of flags of countries appears like this, which is one of the things we really, really love about it. What happens is that as participants, urban growers come knocking on our door or just show up or hear about us from a friend or a neighbor, what we do is we commission a flag of their home countries to go up on our this is just our shed in our covered area. So folks see this flag from their motherlands, and people have said it makes them feel super happy when they come here and see it. And also then you're gonna see, I'll go slowly. So this is our site. Over there in the background behind Linda is the St. Joseph's Health Center. And St. Joseph's Health Center actually owns this land. And so we thank them for, they give us permission to do the urban farming here. And there's a little bit of a slope. And then up the slope is a pretty major road in Guelph called Westmount Road. And then there's some really nice green space and some big trees, some old Engelmann spruce that we get some nice shade and breeze in here. So that's what it looks like. It's quiet, and folks that are walking their their dogs at night or just driving by up on Westmount, they can see these flags from far away, and that's often the thing that piques their curiosity. They've seen community gardens, and our garden looks really, really green and lush and beautiful, but it's not that unlike any other community gardens. Guelph has lots and lots of them, over 40, but it's these flags, I think, that really intrigue people. So that's the flag piece. And it's true that the newest member is Linda. Linda's was born and raised in China, and her friend May is also here. And they're friends of my Chinese doctor, Rong Wu. So that's how we got organized here. But the newest flag up there is the Chinese flag. And there's also a couple on the side. There's, I think that's Iraq and Venezuela. So that's one thing. All of the families that work here as urban farmers, they're from those, a whole section, which is 9 bins or raised beds. So for instance, right here, I can show you, this is Rafael Osorio and his family. They're from Venezuela, and they wanted all of these 9 bins. So we label them with their names, and sometimes even put the names of the foods that they're growing in, let's say, Spanish or in Arabic or in Tagalog, because we have a Filipino family here. The next row is Domalin Panayo and family, and they're from the Philippines. Domalin comes with her 3 kids and her mother all the time, and her mother doesn't speak English, but does a lot of work either chasing the kids around or weeding for her. So each of these bin rows is either, like I said, a whole family, or in this case, the first 3 are Jair Calva and Cynthia Mora, who are from Mexico City. And then behind them is Razan Hatter and her family, and they're from Syria. So that's the way it goes, is folks they can take as many bins as they can look after. And yeah, so we have, I think at this point, 14 different home countries, and very little English spoken, which is okay. Any questions so far about that?
Well, it sort of sounds like, well, I would be interested to know how, like, people hear about it through word of mouth, through driving by, seeing all the flags, pique their curiosity. But is there anything formalized, or is it really just a welcoming, organic? It's
a welcoming, organic space. Yep, that's why we said it's probably the only space in the world where this particular constellation of flags is in place, because as people arrive, I mean, we're conscious of the fact that people, lots of things happen by word of mouth. And so the first year that we were running, we had mostly North African women here, which was great. But I said to my co-founder, let's try to make sure that we get the word out. So mostly it goes out through immigrant services. So newcomers who come here about it there. We also put postings at ESL schools, and we work in elementary schools with ESL kids and then send flyers home. So that's the way we try to get different folks from different parts of Guelph. Yeah, so that's it. It's really organic. Whoever shows up and is keen, then they can do it.
And is it in a neighborhood as well, like that has a lot of newcomers that are settled?
It's an interesting question. So over there toward Westmount, it's actually, I don't know if you can see it from here, but there's a big gray, basically a fancy house. It's on the edge of a very affluent neighborhood in Guelph that's called Exhibition Park. And then there's this space in between that's taken up by Lourdes High School and St. Joseph's, and then a bit of a green area. On the other side is what's called Willow Road, and it's actually where most of the newcomers end up. So the Willow Road is like a high concentration of newcomers. And so it's actually walking distance for most of those folks, which is very important because we wanted to make sure that there were, we were really attentive to the kinds of small systemic barriers that would stop people from being able to work in a community garden. And one of them is that lots of the people who work here, they're women and they have children, and they have to be able to walk with the children or take the bus with the children. So it's very close to an immigrant dense neighborhood, but not in it. So it exposes the other folks to it, which is great. Okay. So should we look at some of the crops?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so Linda can come with me. That's great that she uncovered them. So we're constantly experimenting here. We're north of the 49th parallel, and folks who come, the first thing we ask them is, what would you like to grow? And the thing that we're thinking is that like the name of the project is Food from Home equals Food for Home. And the really basic thought is that most folks who are newcomers had to leave so much behind. Often they're like their elder parts of their family or their grandparents or the places that they were born. But among that is also like food and culture and particular kinds of food. So we had some experience at another market I was working at where we noticed that I was working with a woman who grew all sorts of culturally diverse crops. And then what happened is that we had a more diverse clientele at our farmers market. So I got really interested in finding out what could grow and what's important for people to feel like they're still to their homelands and the, old cultural recipes and ceremonial foods that are important. Sometimes it's just a particular herb. So the other thing that's related to that is this is all organic. Of course, we're like doing everything by organic, biodynamic, permaculture principles. There's no chemicals whatsoever. So all of these folks, many who live below the poverty line, they're getting organic food, which is healthier, fresher, more nutritious food. So even if, for instance, they could find, like the Filipinos who work here, they want the sweet potato leaves. So we grew sweet potatoes this year for the first time. And it's super exciting to me because I had to learn how to grow. First, do they grow here? What kinds grow here? How do you do it? Linda helped me plant all these. So the Filipinos are super excited because they make something out of these leaves. And we say, what the heck do you make out of it? And they often will bring it the next week and share it with everybody. So there's a lot of kind of informal learning. But then I just think, well, I would never have known to eat these sweet potato leaves as a food. I'm waiting for the orange things underneath. So, and Linda
Chinese
said too, Chinese folks,
eat the leaves as well.
they eat the leaves as well. So this is just, I mean, it's ecologically important too, because it means less waste and more food stuff. So sweet potatoes would be one example, but we can walk through Tulsi, basil, and eggplants. Nothing super surprising here. But here we have Lagos spinach and balsam apples. They're very, very, very beautiful vine. I've never grown either of these before. The seed company that we ordered from, you have to sort of work a bit to find diverse seeds. And the seed companies that we draw from, one of them is called True Love Seeds, and it's outside of Philadelphia, and they've been fantastic. They also will get in touch with you right away and give you recipes and hints about this. So this is balsam apple, which is from Central Africa, and it's not unlike bitter melon. But we haven't seen it fruit yet, so we're not sure. I don't know how much fruit we're going to get off it, but it's a pretty exquisite vine that I haven't worked with. Amaranthus, which is in the callaloo family, so folks will eat the grain, the birds will eat the grain, and also the leaves. Nothing super unusual along here. Tell me if I'm going too fast and it's fritzing out. I think I have my phone. These are just all the brassicas along here. The other principle is that folks like Linda, some people really have a lot of growing knowledge that they either had from their former, their employment elsewhere or their homes elsewhere, or maybe they just grow in Guelph. But other people are really keen to learn. Like Linda's good. So she comes and she'll say something like, oh, the broccoli looks good. Mine at home never works out. What do you do to make it work? And so we're here. It's not a community garden in the sense that anybody just shows up at any time. Me and my partner, Omanisa Gidam, we're usually here on Wednesdays and Saturdays to be kind of like agricultural coaches. So that if Linda's here or if Sana's here and they want to know, how do you get good broccoli like that? Then we can say, well, we put some straw mulch, or we've got fish emulsion, and what's fish emulsion? So there's a lot of teaching that goes alongside it. And the main idea there is that for food security, people who are trying to grow foods at home, in their gardens or balconies, if they have space, want people to be successful. Otherwise, it's a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of investment, and a lot of disappointment. So we really want to support people to learn how to do it well, so that if the space wasn't available to us next year, they could do it at home or somewhere else. So this is Raphael and his wife Luz Marina. It's interesting. Not everybody speaks English, right? So we have to kind of asking the question, what do you want to grow, doesn't really work. You have to have a big seed catalog in front of you and people point to things. So Rafael was surprised that this grows here. And I said, oh, finoche, because I know the Italian word. And then he told me the Spanish word for it. It's doing really well. It's beautiful. And then yesterday he was here. He works very closely here at the factory. Lots of folks, this is also an area next to a lot of manufacturing where many newcomers work when they first arrive. He comes here after work, and yesterday he said, is it ready? And I said, yes, it's absolutely ready. You can have it for dinner tonight. So things like helping people understand when the food is ready to be harvested is also important. Linda, do you want to add anything? Do you want to go and look at your plots?
Oh, yeah.
And see what it is?
We actually learn a lot from Karen.
Okay, let's go look at your plots. Linda's a newcomer and not just to Canada, but she's learning a lot. So why don't you just tell them what you've got going here and what you learned yesterday, for instance, about this.
Oh, we see that it's very too cloudy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now it's getting better.
Yeah.
So we learn a lot every time.
Yeah. And what's growing here? These are special. And what's the Chinese name?
Do. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you find them in Guelph in grocery stores?
I don't know. It's longer one. Right?
The longer ones, the long beans.
Long bean we can buy from grocery store, Chinese stores.
Yeah. Grocery market or ethnic grocery stores, sometimes even, grown in Mexico or the Philippines and shipped here. So they're not as fresh and they're never organic. So
Yeah, and I pick up the purple one, right?
yes. Yeah, she chose the purple one. So here's a good example down here. I also love learning what different people, different cultures like, and it's always surprising to me to find out what the overlaps are. So purslane is a big hit with the Egyptians and the Libyans and the Sudanese, the North Africans, the Iraqis. They make a really fantastic kind of stew with lentils and chicken, halal chicken, and purslane and tomatoes. It's just sublime. So we were growing it for them, but then the folks from Mexico City said, oh, that's one of our favorite salads. So then we learned, like, everybody's coveting the purslane here. But here we have arugula. It's another example of, a green that everybody's asking. When I say, what kind of greens do you want to grow? Everybody's, they turn in the page to the catalog of the arugula. Everybody wants arugula. Linda says she loves it. Right?
Right.
Yeah, you cook it. You don't cook it though, right? You make salad?
No, salad.
Salad. But so what we do also is we let people make mistakes, because that's a good way to learn. And so it's very funny. Give people the seeds. And Linda did what everybody does, which is put about 5 million seeds in. And then it was so thick, it was like tiny little, pathetic little leaves.
Yeah, the seed is so tiny, And then I thought it won't grow.
Exactly. But then they'll say, well, how come my arugula is not growing? And then this is what we do. It's fun. We go over here. And this is Marianne's plot. Marianne is she's from Sudan. And she's got the best arugula in the whole garden. And then I can say, okay, well, actually, Marianne only planted 7 or 8 seeds. And from each one of these, you get a really, really good rosette, and it can grow a long time. So it's hard to thin vegetables, right? It's hard to pull out carrots and beets and arugula, but this is the way that you get it the best. So it's teaching in fun ways too. People can look around.
Yeah.
Well, and so much of gardening is learning and experimenting.
Yeah, Linda's gonna say, so I made on Friday, I was very tough. I was a tough coach. I told her she had to take out 3/4 of her arugula, which I think she ate, but she just said now something important, which is it looks better.
Looks a lot better.
Yeah. It looks a lot better. So it's a knowledge sharing, like sort of with each other too, as well, because you can go and look at the plot next to you and think, oh, that basil looks really good. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Yeah. Okay. Any questions that popped up over there, Christine?
Yeah, I do have one in that. Well, it sounds like it's an amazing seed source, like True Love Seeds. But But I'm
People love
wondering if
seeds, yeah.
if you have any seed collecting that's also happening, like so that you can have
Seed
this
collecting.
available.
This one.
Yeah, Linda's gonna
We
talk
did it
about this.
Saturday.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's very-
She's gonna tell you.
Very tiny seed.
And what is it? Do you remember what it is? You can say what the Chinese name is.
芹菜.
Jinchai. And in English, but this has gone to
Tiny.
is that the seeds have started to fall into the bin here. They're tiny.
Mhm.
So then she said, well, can I save them? And I said, yes. And then we're thinking of ways that you could actually collect these, and said something remarkable, which is like next year, say there's a supply chain issue and there's no molopia or there's no parsley seeds. Actually, they're quite expensive too. But if Linda comes every day and collects, look at this little sweet little pot. This is enough for like 500 families of parsley. So yeah, seed saving. We show how to do it, and like tricks for keeping the seeds in good shape. And you know, that's one of the connections. We have a high school kids who come here sometime, and one of them was looking at our dill because we said, you know, go around and taste stuff and see what it's like. And one of them came over here and saw this dill and said, oh, it's their favorite herb. Where do they get the seeds? Where do we get the seeds in Guelph? I said, well, you're looking at them. So that was really fun, you know, a little bit about seed saving.
Well, it's so magical. The executive director for Seoul, that's what hooked her when she was 3 years old, is when she learned that a seed, a tiny little seed, can become this magnificent plant or tree. And it's just so powerful.
It's magical and powerful for sure. And especially, I mean, all the folks who are listening and people who will see this, you know, seeds are expensive and they're getting more expensive. I mean, we do buy from Johnny's, we buy from William Dam. We save our own seeds, but every year you can see that they're going up and up. And so it just makes sense for us to learn how to save seeds and to teach seed saving. And it's like such a radical act and so satisfying. Here's Linda's cilantro. But the other thing that's really nice about this is this project. So not everybody's bins are equally successful. You know what it's like. Sometimes even in your own garden, you have to plant and replant carrots 4 times before you get a crop. Lord knows why. So Linda's cilantro is the best cilantro in the garden. It's probably because she's the watering queen. She's totally committed to watering. But other people's cilantro is less vigorous and it's coming along later. So one of the things that we really encourage is sharing. So, you know, if people are here, like Diane's here and Raphael's coming later, if Linda's here, I'll say, can Raphael have some of your cilantro? And of course she's going to say, yes, this is more cilantro than most people could use. But then in 2 weeks, when somebody else's cilantro is ready, or maybe let's say a month from now, then Linda can get some from them. So we also encourage people to sort of see that when something's ready, it's ready and you can share it and you'll still have all you need. So yeah,
Very good.
What else do you want to show some of May's stuff?
I want to show May's.
Oh, the loofah.
Squash.
Okay, we want to show
Yeah.
you May's loofah. This is May's bins, also very, very good. Different peppers, different tomatoes, beans, some fantastic runner beans, some cleome, which last year we had 2 folks from Kenya and they were interested in cleome. Not sure what they did with it, but oh yeah, so this is what we have. This is very exciting. Linda can tell you what this is.
Loofah.
It's a loofah.
Loofah.
Yeah. And what do you do with it?
Oh, it's perfect to cook with eggs.
Oh, yum.
Very tasty.
Is it ready now to cook?
No. It's
How big does it have to get?
Baby. It's a baby now.
This is a baby and this is a little baby?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not ready yet?
No, the type is very, yeah, it's not ready.
It's not ready. How big will it get?
At least this.
Okay. And then you put
Then put this in and put the egg back to the pot.
Yeah. And you put spices or anything, or just like that?
You can add whatever you want, okay, to make it your taste.
Yeah, well, we're gonna taste it.
Yeah.
We have a potluck at the end of the year, and people are asked to bring a dish like that, where like Dome really wanted to grow bitter melon. She said it's her favorite food, and she told us about what she does with it, but we didn't. You can't really describe what something tastes like. That's a funny thing. You're sort of at loss to tell Patty what coriander tastes like. So we just bring the foods and share it, and that's really wonderful. So at the potluck at the end of the year, May's gonna have to bring
Yeah. We're gonna ask her.
loofah and
to do
egg.
it.
Questions from over at your side, Christine?
Well, I have more questions, but I'm wondering if anybody else does, they can put them in the chat, or we're a small group right now. You can unmute and ask the question. I'm just curious because, yeah, this is a beautiful garden, beautiful site, and it seems like it is very well used. Every bin seems to be in use. So are you able to expand, or are people coming year to year? And then how does it connect also to the Guelph network of community gardens? So you mentioned that there are about 40 of them, and
there's at least 40.
Is there a network that, well, are you directly involved in that network as well?
Yes and no. So to answer your first question, this site was originally set up like this with the bins, which my husband calls the tote farm, as a joint project between the seniors in the assisted living at St. Joseph's Health Center and some high school students at Lourdes High School, which is just over there. There's I think a horticulture class and maybe a science class. They have a small greenhouse. So maybe 10 years ago, this site was put in place for that. And then, with COVID, it got abandoned, and it turned out to be serendipitous because we had been working at another place and we got evicted, let's say, from there. And we had something like 20,000 seedlings to deal with. And it wasn't this project, it was just like community gardening, but it seemed like a really good opportunity for us to try this. So we have expanded. We've put in, you can see these stainless steel raised bins. So we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. We're pretty good. I don't love working in raised beds. I prefer to work right in the ground, but it works very well for people with mobility issues. Also with the women that come with the babies in the prams, they can come right up to the bin, so that's good. And we were discouraged from expanding, but this is our squash arena. Can you guys see it?
Well, and the squash leaves, I'm sure, are very popular.
Yep, the squash leaves, and also the leaves of green beans turn out to be something that my friend Sarah cooks with. So I love that we don't have a lot of bureaucrats breathing down our necks asking us what we're doing. We're kind of left alone because I'm not sure this would be approved. But it's beautiful. It's working really well. And for those of you who know from Latin American food, the flowers of the squash blossoms are a really, really good delicacy. So anyway, there's been folks enjoying those. What else do you have? It's connected to the community system. The overall coordinator, whose name escapes me at the moment, Samantha Dupre. She's very supportive of this project and keeps us in the loop. So other community gardens in Guelph will get support, say in the form of the delivery of wood chips. So she's good at saying, do you guys want some over there? But this project is funded by a national level food project that the city of Guelph, I don't know, like they won this competition, and it was called Our Food Futures, I think. So this Food from Home project is funded by that project, whereas the other community gardens are funded by the city of Guelph. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I wanted to throw you, we have, this is something I'm particularly happy about. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bins of Three Sisters, squash, corn, and beans. And in the spirit of this like maximum diversity, in each of the bin, I've put a different species of flint corn, a different species of climbing bean, and a different species of squash. So they're all variations on the Three Sisters, many cousins. All right.
And what do you see in terms of the pollinators, species or other species that come visit this garden? What is noticed?
That's a good. So one of the there's a big fat bumblebee right here making the rounds. One of the founding members is a person named Francis Habila. And Francis lives in Mississauga and loves flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers. And Francis comes and does workshops on pollinators sometimes. And also we learned from our mentor was Martha Gay Scroggins. And there were as many flowers in Martha's vegetable farm as there were anything else. So there's a good example. This is in Diane's bed. So there are pollinators here. It's quite far from the road and there's a big green area back behind. That means we get lots of birds, also annoying rabbits and things like that, but you know, that comes with it. So I think the pollinators are pretty happy here.
Yeah.
There's some
And
yeah.
What about the water source? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue. It's coming right now from Lourdes High School. We drag the hose over there and then we fill these two watering tanks. And then our folks have to do what Linda's doing right now, which is fill up the watering cans. Sometimes if we've got it turned on, like the other day, Linda did about 4 hours of watering, just walking from bin to bin with the hose directly in it. Because everything was parched, but we don't have our own watering. We don't have a well here. We do have a couple of rain barrel collectors, but they're not actually collecting enough water to be able to keep all of this stuff happening. So yeah, that we rely on Lourdes High School, which is public water to grow stuff. There's the purslane that's wildly popular.
Yes.
Some of it, the stuff that comes up in your own garden and you think lots of people think it's just a weed. And then this is golden purslane, which we seeded in. So
I know that's what's so remarkable is just that there's, yes, anybody's definition of a weed is not the same as somebody else's. Could be like, yeah, very delectable.
Or even
edible.
what goes in the compost bin, right? Like I said, I'd toss the sweet potato leaves and be like excited about the orange fruit, but then Linda would come in behind me and grab the leaves. So it's fun.
Yes. Well, speaking about composting, because that's a whole other side of your interest, your work,
Yes.
what you've been doing lately. So we're not going to get into that too much today, but can you tell me a bit more about the composting on site here?
Okay, the composting on site. What do we know about it, Linda? We have a pretty good system, thanks to the folks who were here before. Here, Diane's transplanting gorgeous lima beans, and they're one with the peat pots. They're one with the peat pots. It's true. The composting here is pretty good. We're very, Almanisa and I are I don't know, we crack the whip with the composting. So that's just a two bin open system. It's pretty passive. This bin was emptied out at the beginning of the year. And then we just gathered up some grass cuttings from around the fields that St. Joe's cuts. People can use this for mulch because it was very dry. And then this is our other system where people just toss stuff on. And so there's some removable slats in between. This is a model that we use at the other project too. So when all of this grass is used for mulching, we'll pull out these slats and flip this in and probably put maybe some red wriggler worms or something on top, and then that'll just stay there till next spring. Okay. Yeah, but it's a good volume. This is the right volume for this amount of growing space.
Well, so yeah, what we've learned from other greener green spaces is, well, and I know as you were saying about gardening in particular, it's such a fantastic way to learn by doing. And I'm just wondering if, though, as someone who, you know, co-founded this and has been active now, I think for 3 years with this particular garden, is that right?
This is the third.
It's
this
been
is
around
the
for
third
about
year
3
that
years.
we've been growing here. Yeah, and then Almanisa and I did outreach and like basically building up a head of steam on the idea for the 2 years prior to that. So I've been at it for 5 years, but we've been growing for 3.
Well, and it seems to really have a vision and a commitment and sort of intentionality behind it. But I'm just wondering if there's anything that you believe, or anybody who's there gardening, what does it look like when you feel like you've had a very good season or outcomes from this? Like what is that definition for you when this is all a success?
I can go and ask Linda and Diane, they're here. I want to ask them what would feel like a success, but for me it's seeing this kind of interaction, especially if it's, let's say we've got 6 or 8 of our North African women, and they're veiled and they're laughing and they're talking Arabic, and within that group there's also, let's say, a Mexican guy who is asking them questions about cucumbers. When I see that,
Yeah.
that like it's kind of like facilitated, informal, very positive, you know, you can call it inclusive, a diversity training. Those are just formal words for how it a success for me is seeing people with different languages and different backgrounds interacting here.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing for me. Making like relationships and friendships. The city and the feds always want us to weigh how much food people take home, which is a bit of a pain in the arse because we don't really have time to be weighing it up. But a success is also that people regularly take food home. And we've done outtake surveys at the end of both of the previous years, and every single person has said they did take food regularly. It wasn't wasted. It usually goes right into the salad or the dinner that night. It's not a huge volume, but it turns out to be, you know, quality over quantity. And we could never feed the world from this, but the stuff that gets taken home turns out to be, you know, sort of highly prized.
Yeah.
Like you said, like a particular herb that goes into a dish that makes that dish perfect that night. But the question they were asking, Diane and Linda, is what would a successful, what are the kind of marks of this being a success? What does success feel like?
The welcome you receive.
The welcome you receive, Diane says.
The welcome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just the courage to try everything.
Mm.
And I haven't started things from seed, so I started things from seed.
Okay.
And then I ask anybody, what are you going to do with that tonight? I said,
Mhm,
we're going home
mhm.
with the cucumber.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. So the courage to try something, she herself has said she hasn't tried things from seed before. So that's really cool. I had never tried sweet potatoes, growing sweet potatoes. I've never eaten loofah before, but I know I will before the end of this. So success is like trying a bunch of new things, having, you know, they call it in bureaucratic speak, like capacity development or something. I don't know what. Anyway, just feeling like you can do stuff. So when I hear from people who were here a couple years ago but aren't here anymore, that they're growing callaloo in their new place in Edmonton, or sometimes I'll just get a little text from somebody saying like, my coriander sprouted, exclamation mark. That's success, because it means whatever we did here can keep happening in the future. But what about you, Linda? What seems like, if this was a good thing and a successful thing, what would that be for you?
Me, it's lots to learn.
It's lots to learning lots of things.
And
Well,
lot.
yeah.
I had a shady backyard, so it's big, but it's shade.
Yeah.
So I thought
Well, I think
they couldn't grow anything, but from
Yeah.
here, when I learned with working with Karen and learn a lot, then she told me something is a heater important than sun.
Yeah.
So now I feel I can use my backyard as well. I started digging.
Linda started digging in her backyard.
well, but what you're saying too, it just brings up another sort of common theme, and that is that it's a green space
Yeah.
that's in the
Yeah,
public, like a public green space. And so this is a
Yeah.
shared common area that
Yeah.
anybody can and be welcomed. And it seems like you are thinking about the accessibility of this. And so it's just public sites that are useful for sharing and community gathering have
Yes.
so much to contribute to sort of individual health and well-being and community health and well-being.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it sort of seems like those are potential outcomes that are happening, and yeah, very personal in some cases, and how it sort of gets transferred and spread is a whole other question. But it's just so valuable to have something like this that brings people together, and particularly after what we've just gone through with the pandemic.
Yeah, during the pandemic, some people were here more often. This year, less so. And sometimes I think, is it just because we're a bit shy socially, or we've become more busy, like people are now traveling again. So there's a little less of community interaction here this year than there was last year. And sometimes I get discouraged about that. But then I think, well, during the pandemic, sometimes we'd be here, there'd be 15 people here with the kids running around. And I have a dog that I bring who's just a little sweetheart of a dog, and the kids would play with the dog. And lots of these folks, you know, either they never had dogs, or they're not allowed to have dogs because they all live in apartments, or they don't have a cultural experience of dogs that was positive. So just to see the kids running around with the dog, I just thought, oh, this is something, it's a place where good things can happen. And they would, just having a big outdoor space like this, feel like safe and welcoming. And it's quite beautiful too. So sometimes people would just beautiful. People would just come. We got this picnic table, make sure that there's a place to sit. And this is something that I'm very proud of, but it's, I don't know if there's any Muslim folks that are on the call, but anybody, or you don't have to be Muslim to recognize what this is. But one of the things that I've learned from working with Omanisa, who's a very committed Muslim woman, is that she prays often, many times during the day, and she prays when we're here working. And so I put this arrow up too, which is the direction of Mecca, because folks who come here, I want people to know that I'm thinking about how this space is for them. And we put also a prayer mat down, just so that if there's like, if Sarah comes, or if Sana comes, or if Nawal comes, or Amal comes, or their mom comes, when their mother comes and sits and watches, if they have to pray, then this is a place they can pray. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful place they can pray. They're going to pray anyway. They might drive home and pray for 10 minutes and come back, but maybe that's just shyness or self-protection, because people around might not have seen it before and think it's just like weird and strange, but it's not. It's just how other people parcel up their day. So just this little arrow that says, there's where Mecca is. It's a signal to all of our Islamic friends and also non-Islamic friends to say, yeah, this is a really important part of Omanisa's day. And if she's going to be here with us, then this is something that is welcoming and positive for her. So when we say a community welcoming space, I think we have to be like pretty creative about what that's going to be for different kinds of people from different backgrounds. And that's just one example, right?
Well, very, there's a consciousness about it too. And yeah, these are the public spaces, so they're constantly evolving, and people's input is extremely important, especially in terms of all the choices that are made, and what's growing and how it's growing, how it's shared. And yeah, there's a lot of nice ways that can be applied in the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
But that's, yeah, it sounds really nice, that particular example.
There's others, but that's a sort of subtle one, and it makes, I think it makes a difference. You know, the city of Guelph about 2 years ago, there was a paragraph at the end, I think it's still there, on their website, that's talking about community gardens. It says, anybody who's a citizen of Guelph can propose a community garden. And we notice also that it's mostly basically affluent white people that are taking advantage of the community spaces. And we want to encourage diversity and are looking for ways. There's a goldfinch that just landed. We're looking for ways to actually improve diversity so that BIPOC folks are part of that, are part of the scene too. And when I read that, and I thought, it's not going to work if it's just a statement of intention, because you have to do things to actually, you know, take out those road bumps that are all the little bits of systemic racism and barriers to participation. And it could be, this has to be on a bus stop. It has to be, there's a place to pray, all these little things. And if you don't have those in place in like arenas and community gardens and swimming pools, then even if you want that diversity, cultural diversity and biodiversity, you're not going to get it, even with the best intent. So when I read that, I thought, oh, I'm going to start at the other end and not just put an aspirational statement out that I hope I get, you know, that our first clients, our first participants are non-English speaking, non-Canadian, non-white skinned folk. I'm going to make a project that just starts that way. So, and it's really working. It's really working. It's great.
Well, this was fantastic. I think we have to stop it soon just because, well, we actually set boundaries for the time, but this was such an interesting way to be there with you. Just to get a glimpse through the video and the talk with the three of you. And yeah, I hope that people check it out. Well, we will be promoting this. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. But anyway, I want to thank you all for being here today and for joining this session and for such an amazing tour. So we can't wait to see how it's evolving and growing. And so we encourage you and invite you to have it formally recognized again for the 2022.
Thank you. And I'm going to put my last PS is that we ran out of funding this year, and I do all this as volunteer just because I'm so happy doing it. But if anybody knows a rich philanthropist who wants to support this project, we actually want a permanent home. We want a visible permanent home that says this is part of the city of Guelph. So just putting it out there because sometimes somebody knows of somebody who's, or Rotary Club or Kinsman that's trying to actually do something like this. So we would like a permanent site or to have this little piece of land bought from St. Joseph so that it can be our site in perpetuity. So it's just putting it out there. That's my big aspiration.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day and the harvest, whatever you're going to be harvesting next.
Yeah,
and everybody else, please join us again for another session in the Greenspaces summer session, and hopefully we'll do another tour. This was really great.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
asking. Bye-bye.